Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is Wednesday. I'm going to hang out for a couple minutes to make sure that we are, in fact, online. Check on my own here. My own phone. Looks like Laura Tibbs is watching, which I would guess means that we are online. Good morning, Laura. So, we are morning, Meg. We're in the middle of the Gospel of Mark, and Jesus Mark has spent the first part of, good morning, Jackie. Mark has spent the first part of his Gospel presenting Jesus in a very powerful light. He starts off by calling him Christ, by calling him Son of God, Son of Man. Good morning, Shelby. All very powerful. Hello, Mrs. G. And Dennis, good to see you, man. He's presenting Jesus as the Messiah figure. This is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. Here he is walking on water, calming storms. Mark is also fixated on the grace side of Jesus, the accessibility of God, as if to say, okay, God is in the flesh now. Here's what he looks like. Good morning, Tim. So we've said throughout that we're looking to Jesus for our view of God, not the nun with the ruler, not the authoritarian figure. We're looking to see what does the character of God really looks like. Good morning, Kathy. Prayers for you guys this morning. And Mark does not disappoint. Like I said, walking on water, he's calming storms, he's bringing sight to the blind, he's healing the sick, he's raised the dead, all this stuff is happening like you would expect when God takes on flesh. But we haven't seen a lot of teaching from Jesus. Now we're going to see some teaching from Jesus, and it's almost as if Mark is saying this is a crucial part of his gospel. Because it's one thing to say, here's God in the flesh doing amazing things that we as humans desperately would want God to do for us. But now we find meaning in it. What does it all really mean? And then as we explore this, we're also going to see the very important concept, I guess you could say. Where is meaning found in life? Because the meaning of Jesus being the Christ is going to have, good morning, David the Ivy, going to have profound impact on showing us where meaning is found in life. Good morning, Mark. Now, I can tell you, like as a pastor and as someone who gets called into people's dark places, and as just a follower of Jesus myself, I'm very interested in meaning in life, and I see so many people grappling for meaning, so many people moving throughout life trying to find meaning. So let me do this now. Let me. There's a story that I want to. Good morning, Nancy. There's a story that I want to share with you. I'm not by any means a Dallas Cowboy fan, but they're a big deal. And when I was growing up, they were really a big deal. The Dallas Cowboys were absolutely America's team, and their quarterback was Troy Aikman. He's now in the Hall of Fame. So to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys would have been, that's like every kid's dream. It's everything that you could have dreamed of if you loved sports growing up. You're in many ways the central sports figure. You have it all. And there was a story. It was in Texas Monthly magazine. An interview with Troy Aikman, again, Super Bowl champion, now Hall of Fame. He wasn't at the time of the interview, but someone who had achieved some pretty high things. you would have had money, you would have had fame, notoriety, plenty of luck with the ladies, everything you could have wanted as a Dallas Cowboy quarterback, and everything that most men especially could dream of. Now, the article says that he had just won his first Super Bowl. Can it get any better? You're the professional athlete, now you're the Cowboys quarterback, now you're Super Bowl champion. And the rest of his team was at this party, and he was supposed to be there, but he was hours late to this party, just hours after the Super Bowl was over, where everybody's celebrating. You are at the top of the world. And the article says that Troy Aikman is, good morning, Vicky. Troy Aikman is in his hotel room by himself, and he ordered some beers and just sat with a few beers and asked himself the question, now what? Now what? And the article explores how unfulfilled he was, and almost a little bit of maybe panic. Okay, here it is. Here's everything. You caught the rabbit. Here it is. Everything that you could have wanted. Everything that you looked for meaning. And now what? And so that's what I want you to think about, because as we look at this Jesus story, so many people have so many ideas about where meaning lies in life. And what we see time and again is it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And so whether for you that's success, whether that's the image of the perfect family. I mean, look at Facebook feeds and we'll see where people feel meaning lies. It's by the thing that they lift up for all to see. And then if you're a parent, man, where are we telling our kids meaning is found? Is it in good grades? Is athletic accomplishments? What is it that we are lifting up in our own lives and the lives of our kids? Just look at the Facebook feeds and you'll see where we're looking for meaning. And Jesus here in Mark 9 gives us a very different picture of that. And this is, for me, this is one of the most incredible, one of the most significant passages short of the resurrection itself. So read this. I'm in chapter 9, verse 30. And remember that we've seen the big, in fact, right before this was the transfiguration, where heaven essentially opened and Jesus was transfigured into the cosmic Christ, right there before Peter, James, and John's eyes. Now we get to this, and you have to, when you're reading the gospel, good morning, Paula, when you're looking back to back, Paula and Vicky, sisters, joining me almost simultaneously. When you read this, you can't help but, as you pick up the flow, contrast the big Jesus with the message of meaning. So here we go. They left that place and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know where they were because he was teaching his disciples. So that right there, Jesus is trying to avoid the crowds because he's setting up some very meaningful teachings for his closest followers. It's important that they get a little bit of extra insight because they're going to take the movement very soon here. We're leading toward the crucifixion. He said to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. Now, we said before, that's important language. Good morning, Laura Fuentes. That's very important language. The Son of Man, which calls back to Daniel's language in the Old Testament of the human one who rides on the clouds and approaches the Ancient of Days. Lofty language for Almighty God, and is given an eternal kingdom. So think about that idea of, now before you knew about Jesus, before, if you could put yourself back, like give yourself amnesia and you know nothing of Christianity, all you know is there's going to be a human one who rides on the clouds and is given an eternal kingdom. And you have, good morning, April, you have those ideas in your head. And then Jesus says, the Son of Man, that same human one riding on the clouds, is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. Hello, Marcus. But they did not understand what he meant and were afraid to ask him about it. Now picture, because this is going to lead into where we're heading, the conflict there. What does a Son of Man, the human one who rides on the clouds, how can that be connected with Roman crucifixion? How in the world does that make any sense that the human one who's going to be given an eternal kingdom could be killed? Like, do you see what that would have been like to an ancient Jew? That just, how does that fit? They didn't understand. Rightly so. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Leave it to a bunch of men, even in the context of ancient disciple-rabbi relationship, to compete with each other. Who's the greatest? So again, look at how that fits into this, because Jesus is talking about the Son of Man, the human one who rides on the clouds. He will submit to death. Meanwhile, good morning, Allison. Meanwhile, his disciples are arguing about who is the greatest. Now, what Jesus is going to say here is they don't even know what that means. So here we go. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all." And then he took a little child. This is an incredible passage of scripture here. Then he took a little child whom he placed among them, taking the child in his arms. So you get this imagery of Jesus sitting with a group of who would be the leaders of the church. And he's sitting with this kid in his arms. And he said, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. Whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." In other words, if you want to be great, you be the servant of all. And if you want to love God directly, love children. How you treat them is how you treat Jesus, how we treat God himself. Now, this was not an age of the helicopter parent. This was not an age of knee pads and bubble wrap. This was an age where children, which you do the etymology of that word, the silent ones, where children were not highly valued. And so Jesus does this radical thing, and he grabs a child and he holds him tight and he says, right here, how you treat children, that's greatness. And being a servant of the least of these, that's greatness. Now contrast that with Facebook and what's celebrated on Facebook. Contrast that with the American dream, with if you're a parent, what we really parent our kids toward. That gets humbling quick. Yet, man, I have seen it flesh out time and again, where people pursue things, the promotion, financial success, the image of the perfect family, the house in the right neighborhood. And then there's either this now what moment. And then they got to go for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's what leads to so many of the vices and affairs and just collapses, because deep down we realize that's not it. It must be something else. If I can get here, I'll be great, and then I'll be happy, and then I'll achieve success, and then it's the Troy Aikman thing of Now what? And so you got to go to the next thing and the next thing. And the problem is you're on the wrong path. Jesus says the path to meaning. We're talking about meaning, a meaningful life, which is very different than a successful life. Meaning different than achievement. Meaning is different than so many of those milestones, but meaning, a life of meaning, that's what we're really after. And this is the Son of Man, the Christ, the chosen one, the anointed one, defining meaning. The anointed one, the Christ, the Son of Man, the Son of God, who chooses the cross as an act of service to save all of us. His definition of meaning is very different than the American dream. It's very different than our success achievement. And so, gosh, there's so much with parenting in here. Where do we spend our time parenting? It's for grades, it's for athletic achievement, it's for, those kinds of things. Compare that to the time and the money spent to make your kid a servant. I mean, who really wants that? I want my kid to be the servant of all, to be the lowest on the totem pole. Who cares what kind of money they make or what kind of financial security they have? If they can just serve the least of these, if they could just be a janitor at the homeless shelter, that would be right. That's not us. That's not how we talk. But that's how Jesus defines greatness. Hey, Martha. So there's so, and again, There are moments when I realize that this teaching the Bible thing really is a recipe for a hypocrisy, because I'm not very good at this stuff, but it's there, and I know it's true, and I know it matters. Check your Facebook feed, check your bank statement, think of your real goals and the things you're really after in life. And then compare that with what Jesus says leads to meaning. Things like serving children, things like serving the least of these, being the low man on the totem pole, but being the servant of all. That's his definition of greatness. And that's where things in the Gospel of Mark just take this massive turn. Okay, here's God in the flesh. Now here's what it means. Okay, here's the perfect representation of humanity. Here's what it means. And that's the pathway to meaning. And there's just something different when you step into a life of what Jesus says is meaningful. You right away know he's right, naturally. And then you find meaning and fulfillment and joy. And you have that even in difficult circumstances, even in an overall lack of certainty. There's such deep feeling and meaning, and then what you find is that's never threatened. Like there's a certain stability that comes from that, because financial stability is always it's always threatened. The perfect family image or the career that's always threatened, because who knows what can happen, and you can lose all of that. But when you live a life of meaning, as Jesus describes it, gosh, that just, and I got to tell you that I found it, especially with the children thing. The more I try to keep kids centered, try to keep Polaris centered around children, try to take time when I see kids to just interact with them, realizing that how I treat them is how I treat Jesus. That has brought so much meaning into my life, and I've watched it bring so much meaning into the lives of others. Let me do one quick thing here. I'm gonna grab a book. This book was a life changer for me. It's by Wes Stafford. He was the president of Compassion International. It's called Too Small to Ignore. Now, that's kind of the book that unlocked all this for me. it was a huge blind spot, and that book was a life changer. And so if you're looking for something to read, especially when we're all kind of trying to find some substance here, when we're all searching for stability, that could be a good place to start. So check that book out. All right, so I'm not not doing this tomorrow. Got a morning with some pastors on some virtual prayer stuff. So I'll be back next Tuesday. Not sure about the time yet. I'll update the Facebook feed about that. I may switch it to earlier as things change up. People going back to work and things like that. So I will. I'll be back next week, and have a good weekend. And I hope that you'll take some time, especially for this stuff from Jesus, to really reflect on how it applies to your own personal search for meaning, your own definition of greatness, and what you're after in life. Have a good weekend.